Welcome. Thank you all for joining us tonight. We're really excited to have you here for our Roseway Town Hall. We're going to start our community meeting. If you are hard of hearing, feel free to come to the front row so that you can see the captions on the monitor. Thank you to Calvary Church and Recovery Cafe, Roseway, for providing the space and providing coffee for the meet and greet. Recovery Cafe does accept donations if you are so moved. The restrooms to the south are to the south of the sanctuary. Please follow the signs. If you have limited mobility, there is a stair chair to the basement in that back corner. If you need assistance, please reach out to someone in a Roseway shirt. We'd be more than happy to help you. If you haven't already, please click the QR code that was out front or add your name, your contact information to the sign-up sheet at the table in the front entrance. If you're on Zoom, please provide that same information. We will email you our monthly bulletin and may reach out about other opportunities. Our meeting is being recorded and will be posted on YouTube. A little bit about the Roseway. Oh, I'm Chris King. Thank you all for coming tonight. We really appreciate having you. A little bit about the Roseway Neighborhood Association. We are not an HOA. Our mission is to maintain and enhance the livability of our neighborhood by making Roseway a better place to live, work, and play. We are a group of volunteers committed to making our neighborhood a better place. We help the neighborhood through a combination of fun and educational events, sharing information, connecting neighbors to resources, and collaboration with the city. All right. So at these meetings, we have just kind of a set of ground rules. You might see some papers floating around, but I'm just going to read through these fairly quickly. Number 1, listen with an open mind. 2, think before speaking. 3, avoid exclusionary language. Seek to frame problem statements and proposals in a way that respects and benefits our entire community, not a subset. 4, request nonviolent communication. If you feel that a neighbor's communication is violent, make an observation about that communication, tell them how it makes you feel, and make a request on what you need for them to do or say differently. Let everyone participate. Show up on time and come prepared. Stay mentally and physically present. Contribute to meeting goals. Participate completely by sharing ideas, asking questions, and contributing to discussions. If you state a problem or disagree with a proposal, try to offer a resolution. Stay on point and on time. Attack the problem, not the person. Close decisions and follow up. Report outcomes and share. Excuse me. All right. At the end of the meeting tonight, we will have a lot of time for some networking and mingling. You'll notice some tables that you might have come across in the back there. We are going to have our new Roseway Neighborhood Emergency Response Team we're really excited about. Eric Berg, where's Eric? There he is back there. Of course, he's in red. He's in emergency red. So Eric is heading up that. Please, I know we would love to talk to you about this exciting program. If you're a business owner in the Roseway and would like to join some fellow businesses in our neighborhood, please let one of us know, and we would love to get you in touch with some fellow business owners. Town Hall series. So as I said before, tonight is the first in a combined effort with Rose City Park and Madison South Neighborhood Associations. Rose City Park Neighborhood Association will be holding theirs on Wednesday, February 26th at 7. And Madison South will be hosting theirs on Thursday, April 3rd. For more information, please look at the roseway.org. Yeah, for those of you that don't know, roseway.org, check it out. It has our calendar. We really try to keep that up to date with the projects that we have going on. And we would love to get in touch with you and vice versa. So now, Haley Wallace, there she is. All right, so we're gonna have Haley come on up and talk to us about the signage committee. She is a friend of the board. She's been so kind to volunteer her time and help us out with this initiative. So we're really excited to have her. Cool, thank you.
Wasn't expecting that so fast. So I think, okay. So I'm Haley Wallace, as Chris mentioned. I am a neighbor, and this is Roseway specific business, so sorry for all of you that are just here for the town hall, so I'll breeze through it really quick. So I am with the signage committee. We are just a group of neighbors who initially started working on a plan for reinstalling the vinyl banners that have been historically on the telephone poles and things that identify the neighborhood. And our discussion from that kind of evolved into more of an existential discussion about like the neighborhood identity and how we can make ourselves a little bit more identifiable. So we started talking about doing something a little bit more artistic, a little bit more sculptural. And we kind of morphed into what is called now the Roseway Monument Project. We determined that we would want a sculpture at 72nd and Sandy that would really kind of help identify the node here. And then we also thought that a companion sculpture at Prescott and 72nd would also be like 2 anchor points to the park blocks in the neighborhood here. So that's what I'm presenting as our kind of concept for that. So next slide, please. I'm realizing now that I should have done this in landscape, but so sorry about that.
Is this not coming?
So we started looking around at some sculptures that we might reference in the Portland area, and there are a ton, obviously, like there's so much public art here, and it's really great to look at. There are many different kinds, and what is special about all of them is that they're really conceptually related to where they're installed. So, you know, they have a place of, a place of reference, a concept that they are referring to when you're, around them and visiting them. Next slide, please. So here are just a few more of the examples that we looked at. I think what we learned from this experience was, reviewing all of this, was that we really wanted something that we started exploring concepts that were really referential to the Roseway neighborhood. And there are a lot of Rose references in Portland, obviously, Rose City. So how do you differentiate yourself? Well, you don't. You lean into it and kind of like go full force into the Rose. And the best way to do that, we came to the conclusion of, next slide, please, is to do a Rose sculpture. Surprisingly, I mean, unless somebody has an idea, I don't know of any Rose sculptures in the city of Portland. And I definitely don't know of any Rose sculptures of any other like Rose neighborhoods. So we kind of leaned into that, and as a way to, identify ourselves, make our neighborhood unique, and kind of make it a node not only for our neighborhood, but for the city of Portland. So next slide, please. So this is a really conceptual rendering of what we came up with. It's a Rose sculpture. We are, exploring materials, we're exploring like cost and things like that, but essentially this is what it would be. You can see that the petals in this rendering are shown as translucent, so it would allow like the sun to kind of cascade through, create a sparkling effect, which would be really important to catch people's eyes. They're kind of whizzing by on.
They sent a new link.
Like we
That's
really
why I
want to
wasn't
make it an
working.
anchor point and a special meeting location and a node for our neighborhood and, for Northeast in general. The other important thing to note about our concept is that we are trying or have gotten arboretum status, Catherine. Anyway, working on it. Okay. So the park blocks are a really special thing for Roseway, and Catherine is pursuing so generously to get it as an arboretum status, and so we want to, commemorate that in the sculpture. We'll have some more information about the Roseway neighborhood and the park blocks in the sculpture as well. So that's our sculpture, and then next slide, please.
I don't know
So
where
here's just
Roseway
a little
is,
bit
do you?
from from the south, from the
Like
west.
near Buckman and all that.
Here's one from the north. Just so you can kind of see what it looks like. And then here is what I mentioned at the beginning. This is what we, determined to put at Prescott. It's just a Roseway sign to kind of identify the neighborhood. It felt like more of a gateway than Sandy, when you're just whizzing by, you see a rose on Sandy, but on Prescott, it's really an identifiable area, so. Slide. So then these are just some of the materials that we've explored. I mentioned the translucent petals. We could use kind of like a resin, or there are so many cool materials out there for exploration. So right now, I think we're showing, dichroic film, core 10, powder coated metal, just some of the things that we're exploring right now. We're doing some pricing and figuring out artists that we might collaborate with and metal workers that we might collaborate with. And then this image is just kind of showing like where those materials might go. So, the resin would be the petals, the metal would be the stem. Anyway, next slide. And then kind of the same thing for the Roseway sign as well. I think 410 is kind of a base price point for us, but if we can get something nicer like powder coated steel, it'd be great. So that's it. And I think we have time for questions if you all want, but I know it's an exciting night for the city councilors, so.
Yeah,
It says mute.
Yeah, thank you so much. But yeah, while we're on the topic, does anyone have any questions regarding what you just saw about the signage committee? No, okay. Oh. You start.
Yeah, sure. Would there be any consideration for having a bit of a road diet or making any of the making the immediate area any safer? So that one split between Sandy and the beginning of the
Yeah, so the question was, would there be any consideration for doing like a road diet or making the road in front of Sandy a little bit safer? And that is actually not my area of expertise. That's kind of a PBOT thing, and they are working on it. They are doing a restructuring of the intersection there, so hopefully that will help a lot. Like it seems like a pretty good plan, and I think they're actually supposed to get started this year. And I think they have actually been to the neighborhood association to speak about that. So the plan is called the 70s Greenway Plan, and it's related to 72nd. So it follows the whole Northeast 72nd route. But you can look it up on the PBOT website.
Yeah, quick question related to that. I know that there was or is a plan currently to, in the middle of that parkway section, I think on Mason, do some sort of plaza engagements, or there's an exploration of doing that. Is there any thought on doing some sort of piece there, or is there additional pieces being planned for that plaza development?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So the question was, I'm just repeating this for the people online, but the question was, there's a plaza being installed on Mason and 72nd. And that plaza is underway, and there has been some consideration for another sculptural piece that might be there. I don't know if you're familiar with that. I mean, I guess you must be, but there's like a bench there that is kind of weird. So there has been some consideration about that, but the neighborhood association is all volunteers, so we're kind of doing it piecemeal. And I think that the plaza is going to be such an important like node in the neighborhood that it will kind of, all like come out from that and lead to more sculptural aspects, but we definitely considered that when we were talking about this, so.
Yeah, if I could add too, so Catherine Clark is in charge of the placemaking committee, and they're doing a lot of work with that 72nd and Mason plaza. So I'd love for you, if you have any questions, to reach out and talk to her. they've been putting in a lot of time and effort into what that's actually gonna look like. Right, any other questions regarding signage? Yes, you, sir.
I don't mean to be negative, but I hope the planning committee and selecting materials of the design will take into account that it will become a target. And Cortez is not easy to clean up.
Yeah, we have definitely considered the, you know, the impacts of installing something like that. Like I mentioned, Core-10 is kind of like our budgetary option. It's not like the cheapest material, but if we can get something nicer, it'd be great. I will say too, that I think that having a piece of public art there, of course, there's gonna be hooligans that will, you know, wanna make an impact on it, but I think that that should not stop us from installing something like that. I think when people have public art, it makes them care about their community a little bit more. So, we're willing to kind of take the risk.
Okay, so I'm scouring the room. No one is shooting their hand up. All right, you're off the hook. Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much, Haley. So much work has been done, and as I mentioned, Catherine has been doing a great job with all of the 72nd area as far as planting trees, getting neighbors out there to mow that grass in the summer. So yeah, if any of you folks have any questions about anything really going on, aside from signage on 72nd, I would love for you to speak with Catherine or any of us on the board.
Okay.
Yeah, yes. How would you stand up? Stand up, Catherine, so we can put a name to the face. Would that be okay?
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to talk with any of you. Some form, about the parkway, the plaza. Have a lot of things are gonna be happening, we'll let everybody know. Get the word in. It's coming soon.
All right, thank you. All right. Cool. So, looks like we are ahead of schedule, which is great. For now. I'm gonna invite the District 3 City Councilors. Rachel. Oh, I'm sorry, my bad.
I'll give you the signal.
Sorry about that.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here tonight. It's really incredible to see such a full house and so many people that are interested in learning more about District 3 and hearing from our counselors. My name is Rachel Anderholder, and I am the Roseway Neighborhood Association Secretary. And I'm going to be emceeing our panel this evening. So before we get started, I figure we'll do a little bit of an introduction, a little housekeeping for y'all. So we're gonna have a couple of different sections, I suppose, of our panel this evening. So first, I'm going to be asking a couple of questions to get us started. So we'll have about 30 minutes of kind of pre-selected questions from the neighborhood. And then we'll also have another about 30 minutes for y'all to ask questions yourselves. Now we've got a couple of ways for y'all to participate in that. I know that not everybody loves being up and talking into a microphone. So we do have some note cards that you can write questions down. Bob, do you want to give a little wave in the back? Awesome. So Bob's got note cards and pens. And so in addition to having folks stand up and ask questions into the microphone, we'll also be pulling some questions from there as well. And then, as you probably can see here in the center of the room, we do have a microphone. So we'll ask that if folks have a question, they please come up to the microphone to ask that. And I can repeat all of that when we get to it, but just want to let folks know that if you want to write down a question, there will be time to do so before that part of the evening starts. But before we do that, I wanted to give you all the opportunity to stretch and stand and maybe meet some new folks. So it's really important for us to be here this evening to hear from our counselors and to understand what's going on in City Hall, but it's also really important for us to be able to connect with one another. So in a minute here, what I'm going to ask you to do is, if you feel so inclined, We'll give you 3 to 4 minutes to stand up, maybe meet somebody new, chat with somebody that you haven't chatted with before, meet a new friend from the neighborhood. You can introduce yourself, share where you live if you feel like it, and then to do a little brainstorming, you can share an idea of what type of question you would want to ask one of our counselors when the time comes. So a little forced mingling. It's a 2-hour meeting. It's good to get the blood flowing. So I'm going to give you all about 3 minutes to stand up, make a new friend, do a little brainstorming, thank your partner, and then I'll bring us back in about 3 minutes. All right? Good? Yay! Making new friends.
Don't turn that, that's. Okay, as much as I need to break up some really amazing conversations that are happening, if y'all could please filter back in and take a seat.
Awesome. Wow, this is so great. Thank you, everybody, for, hopefully y'all got to meet somebody new and talk about something that's important to you, something you're interested in the neighborhood. Like I said, it's so important for us to hear from our counselors, but if we're not connecting with each other and hearing about, each other's joys and concerns, then we're just not the connected, District 3 neighborhood that we want to be. So thank you for taking the time to do that. I will also mention that tonight we are not only the Roseway neighborhood, but we also have some folks from different neighborhoods in District 3 as well, because this is part of a town hall series. So neighborhood associations working together to have a couple of different town halls sprinkled throughout the spring. So we have combined efforts with Rose City Park and the Madison.
There's a live Zoom with like the Roseway.
Nice. Way to go. Way to turn out. Okay. And then raise your hand if you're from Madison South Neighborhood Association. Yeah. Okay. This is beautiful. This is what happens when neighborhoods work together, y'all. This is great. So the Rose City Park Neighborhood Association is going to be holding their town hall on Wednesday, February 26th at 7 p.m. And Madison South will be hosting theirs on Thursday, April 3rd. And so we've got more information about who's going to be at those town halls and the location and all of that stuff on the roseway.org website. So that is a place that you can learn more about the series that's happening throughout the spring. And I've got one more plug. Since everybody in here is from District 3, there are these flyers that are posted throughout on the benches and whatnot. And
muted, right?
Southeast Uplift is doing this really amazing community priorities survey. And so just another great opportunity for you to share with Southeast Uplift, which is kind of overseeing all of the neighborhoods within District 3 to be able to understand what are the concerns and priorities of folks living in the district. And that will also eventually come to our lovely counselors here to be shared with them. So the survey is open through Friday, January 31st. I don't know why I'm holding this. You have copies with you, but just another plug to please fill that out. Okay, I think that is all of my housekeeping. Thanks y'all for playing along. Excellent save.
Yeah, that would be great.
Disaster averted. Whew, okay. Wonderful. So the moment that you've all been waiting for is hearing from our wonderful guests of the hour, our newly elected counselors. So y'all were here just about a year ago as candidates, and here we are again. And so thank you so much for being here. We have Steve Novak, Angelita Morillo, and Tiffany Coyoma Lane, and thank you so much. So I know that, like I said, you've been on the stage here before, and throughout the fall, we had plenty of ways to hear from you and get to know you, but a lot has happened since November. And so I wanted to start with just giving the audience a chance to get reacquainted with you all. So I'm going to start with Steve, and then maybe we can go down the line. And so I'm just wondering if you could all please give a brief introduction of who you are and what your top priority is coming into City Council.
Well, first of all, I wanted to say that when my staff guys had an invitation from the Roseway, Rose City, and Madison South Neighborhood Associations, I said, oh, we gotta go there. One thing, I'm scared of Roseway. They did a forum 9.5 months before the election, we're at 100 people. That's a group not to be messed with. And if they're ganging up with Madison South, Rose City Park, I mean, I don't care what else I'm doing, I have to go there or I'll take my life in my hands. So I think that a high priority for the next year is to survive the budget cuts that we're gonna have to make. We have a budget deficit of, depending on how you count, anywhere from like 60 to 100 million. For, in effect, the city's general fund programs, which is mostly public, almost, I mean, the vast majority of that is public safety, including police, fire, and non-police public safety programs, and parks and housing and homelessness programs. So there's nothing that's easy to cut. So just figuring out a way to navigate that in a way that does the least damage, I'm afraid is gonna have to be our highest priority. And there's, I mean, I'm really pleased to be co-chairing the Climate Land Use and Resilience Committee with Annalita and the Public Safety Committee with Samir Kanal from District 2. And we could talk about some of the specific goals we intend to reach through that, but simply surviving the budget is kind of by definition priority one.
Thanks. for that.
Hey,
Oh, Steve Nova. Sorry.
Awesome. Annalisa, over to you, please. Are we doing the intros or are we getting into our priorities as well? Yeah, both. If you want to give a brief intro and then your top priority for coming to city council. Thank you. Hi, everyone. It's so good to see you. Angelita or Angelita, for those of you that speak Spanish, Portland City Councilor District 3. And actually, I think last time I was here, I was sitting exactly in this spot with Steve as well. So we've come full circle. It was this order. Yeah, okay, good. We made it.
There's a lot more people.
Yeah. I think, ditto to everything that Steve said. The reality is that we initially anticipated that we were going to have a $27 million shortfall. It turned out it is now a $100 million shortfall at the city. And on top of that, we are also, I kind of want to address the elephant in the room that the Trump presidency is going to drastically impact the revenue for our state. Trump has already issued many executive orders saying that they are going to be removing federal funding, which is going to impact a lot of program areas, maybe not directly for the city, but things that are going to impact us like SNAP, also known as food stamps, the entire Department of Human Services, some of our health agencies. So I think that we're going to have to address some of those things as a city council and try to stop the bleeding where we can, and it's going to be really tough. And there's not anything too small or too big to do right now to help one another, because we are all going to be facing that common threat that is going to be, attacking the state of Oregon. So that's something that I want to flag. I'm really excited also for the opportunities that we have. I'm co-chair of the climate committee with Steve, and I think we have a lot of opportunities to do right by Portlanders with things like the oil trains, making sure that we are not going to create dangerous environmental impacts on our communities. And I also think we're gonna be able to find really innovative solutions to address the rising cost of rent in Portland. That's something I'm really focused on. I'm one of 3 renters on city council. I'm one of the only, one of 2 transit users on city council as well. So I think I'm really excited to dig into all of those issues. Thank you. Thank you so much. And Tiffany.
Yeah, my name is Tiffany Koyama-Lane. My pronouns are she, her. First, thank you so much for this. This feels so good to be around community, and I'm excited to be up here with my colleagues who I really enjoy working with. I'm a mom. I have a 7 and 9-year-old. I am a community organizer. I'm a public school teacher. This is my 16th year teaching, and my custom has now been passed off to someone else. But I am forever a teacher. I am Yonsei, which means I'm 4th generation Japanese American. I'm the first Asian American woman to ever serve on Portland City Council, which I'm very proud of. And I'm like, what else? I also rely on TriNet. Yeah, I'm really happy to be here. In terms of priorities, I mean, I'm just sitting here listening to my colleagues and I'm like, yes, I'm so glad I'm up here with them. I plan to be working closely with them and helping get this policy pushed through and done as the stuff that they're talking about. And at the same time, something that I feel really passionate about and called to do is to bring my skills as a community organizer, as an educator, and really help the group of 12 of us make sure that we're truly listening to each other, we are working together, we are keeping in mind that while we're creating different rules that maybe could change. This is the first time we're doing this, and so it's a big deal. It's important that we are doing it right. And so this idea of helping stand up this brand new form of government for the first time is something that's really important to me, and is part of why I was convinced and kind of nudged to be the council vice president. And so that's something that I'm getting to focus on. I get to chair the governance committee, where we're going to be talking about how we, work with the mayor on appointments, how we talk about when there are folks from bureaus that need to put something on the agenda, what's the route for that? Because it's different now that it's not the commissioner model. So I'm excited to dig into some of that stuff, which maybe isn't always like exciting and flashy, but I believe is really important and is something that I'm passionate about.
Excellent. Thanks all three of you again for being here and just diving in head first with a lot to manage as you get the year started, right? So as we have kind of talked about a little bit in your introductions, two of you are new to city council, and Steve, you served on city council before, but the structure is very different now than the way that it has been in the past. I know myself, and I would assume many folks here in the audience are a little disconnected from what life actually looks like in City Hall. And so I'm hoping that you can share with us one thing that surprised you or might surprise the audience about what a day in the life actually looks like when you are in your new position. And I'm gonna go reverse order. Tiffany, do you mind if I start with you and then we'll work right back?
I have a couple things in mind. I'm trying to choose which one. I mean, like, honestly, one of the things that was really surprising to me is I'm not used to kind of like the formal decorum, the like, Madam Vice President, and I've had to like teach myself, like, okay, this is code switching. Like, I've even like turned to my staff and been like, okay, now I'm like putting on my fancy hat, because at first I kind of like wanted to laugh when people would be like, Mr. Mayor and Madam President, and I'm just like, wow, my students call me Tiffany. Like, really, I believe like respect is something that's earned, but okay, I think I've also kind of gotten over it. I already feel more comfortable with it, because I think it's just something that we have to do. And also, as we're talking about a new federal government, I have been convinced and thought more about how some of these pieces around decorum are important, that we are, modeling how we speak to each other. But yeah, some of the like formalness just kind of feels like Downton Abbey a little bit sometimes. I don't know.
Angelita? That is so true. I think, I think there was a lot of fear and anticipation about how our new colleagues would work together, because we're dealing with a lot of tough issues. We have different perspectives on policy. And I think the thing that maybe it didn't surprise me, but I think I've just been so happy to see that we've all said this, and I've heard us all say this, is that we genuinely like everybody on council as a human being. And we have been able to appreciate each other as people, even though there are going to be policy differences. And like, don't get me wrong, we're gonna fight about policy. It happens. That's what happens when you legislate, but people truly are there to like work together and come up with the best solutions for issues. And that's been really pleasant to see. I don't think we had that in the old form of government. I think there was a lot of competition and people trying to one-up one another, and you're not seeing that now. And so that's really special. Another surprise, I would say, is that we now have nighttime council sessions. Raise your hand if you heard about the nighttime city council sessions. Okay, good. See, this is a very informed group. For those of you who don't know, we now have monthly nighttime city council sessions that start at 6 p.m. so that folks can attend even if they're working during the day. The thing that did not surprise me is that I get very sleepy by 10 p.m. and sometimes they go on till like 11:30 or 12. But we have snacks on the dais now and it's all okay. So don't judge me if you see me eating Doritos up there. I'm trying to serve the people and I need a snack. I think that's it for me. How about you, Steve?
A continual surprise and delight for me is how nice Tiffany and Angelita are to me. It would have been really easy for them to dismiss me as an old, out of touch white guy, which I am. But towards the end of the campaign, they both kind of adopted me to the point where I think it was the day before the election. I don't know, probably, does anybody remember Bill Pascrell, the former New Jersey Democratic representative? there's a point like 6 years ago where The Onion did this article saying that an 80-year-old New Jersey congressman had applied to be a member of the squad. And the congressman then literally emailed AOC and said, well, and she responded, you're in. So the day before the election, I texted Tiffany and Alita that article, and they said, if the three of us all win, as I hope we will, I'm this guy. A couple of weeks ago, Tiffany went with me to pick out jewelry for my girlfriend, and Annalena was planning to go too, but then she had a conflict. So I'm extremely grateful for and delighted by how nice they are to me.
Awesome. Thanks y'all for sharing. I know that we're probably gonna have a lot of more challenging questions, but I think that it's really important for us all to understand that, yeah, that this is your role and your job, and that it's a different environment than maybe we're used to, and it's really great to be able to build that community and see y'all building that community. So thank you for sharing. Okay, so next question, I think really on the mind of a lot of us at the Neighborhood Association is, there are 21 neighborhoods, three represented heavily here tonight, but there's 21 in all, and all of which have a balance of overlapping concerns and also having unique challenges and needs. So we plan to partner with all of the different neighborhood associations to address those unique concerns. And Angelita, we'll start in the middle this time.
Yeah, thank you. This is a great question. And we are just now starting the hiring process to add a few more staff to our teams, which I'm really excited about because I think that's going to be really essential to doing this kind of core community work. The reality is that us as council members with one staffer, it's physically not possible, even if you were working 60, 80-hour weeks to get done all of the work that you do, drafting policy, doing the research, submitting that to committees, actually attending the committee meetings. You simply wouldn't have enough hours in the day to do this kind of outreach. So I'm really excited to attend more of these types of events. I know Tiffany's working on a big map, not to take your thing, but Tiffany's working on a master list of different schools. I think we could mirror that with neighborhood associations and just make sure that people are signed up for our newsletters and that we're signed up for yours and vice versa, so that we're hearing directly about those issues. And also because things are a little bit different, since we're not going to be overseeing bureaus, we're going to be in charge of committees and policy areas. I think what I would like to do is, if I get a newsletter from a neighborhood association where I'm the vice chair of the transportation committee and you have a transportation issue, I want to invite you to come and testify at our committees as well, to make sure that we are passing and implementing policy that's informed and designed by your experiences in different neighborhoods. So I think there's going to be a lot of creative ways to get involved. We're also in the process of looking into getting an in-district office and assessing the cost for all of that. So we'll have a space for people to be able to join us, in District 3, not have to go all the way downtown. And that's going to be a space where you can really share your thoughts with us and just have office hours. Thanks. Steve, let's go on to you.
So I'd like to echo what Annalena said about making people aware of the different committee assignments, so people know which committee to go to, inviting people to come and stalk the issues the committees are dealing with. I think that, there's some issues that are not just neighborhood specific, but like block specific, where you might be calling about a pothole somewhere. And that's something where in some cases we'll be able to help. There's also broad areas where we all have the same, we all feel kind of the same way, but there's different emphases in different neighborhoods. It's like, we'd all like to have nice parks and we'd all like to be safe. And as we go through the budget process, we are going to be dealing with things like, how many parks are we going to sacrifice and how much are we going to sacrifice in terms of public safety? And I think that there's going to be some difference among the neighborhoods. It's places where it's more dangerous, that might be more emphasis on public safety. In places that are less dangerous, people might be saying, please don't, cut the parks. So I think that part of our job over the next year will be to talk very clearly with everybody about, here are the tough choices. And we don't want to be pitting parks against public safety, but that unfortunately is kind of what happens. So I think that mean, we'll listen to everybody, we'll try to do as good a job as we can, but we are going to be, I think, trying to make sure that you all understand the choices we're making as best as possible, and understand that in some cases, a choice that is painful for one neighborhood is in order to avoid greater pain to another.
Tiffany, anything you'd like to add?
I will add, yes, there is an Excel spreadsheet that I am working on, and it already has a neighborhood associations tab on there. So I've gone through and put all the different neighborhoods on there and linking the neighborhood associations, and it'll take some time, but I'm filling all that out, adding all the schools, all their PTA information, all the bike buses. And I think the hope would be from all of us, if we have the bandwidth, that we are able to go to all of them and have some sort of presence. I echo what Angelita said, please go to our websites and our council websites and sign up for our newsletters. I know I'm putting in time to do one every week. It's emailed out, and then also trying to put like pieces of that on Instagram and Facebook. So trying to know that people get their information in lots of different ways. So trying to do it in many different ways. And then just I think part of making those lists and being intentional is there's gonna be some groups that are more organized that are gonna reach out to us. I know the three of us we went to the Buckman Neighborhood Association meeting, and so also doing the work of reaching out to the ones that we haven't heard from too.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you so much. So we're already talking on some of the, priorities, the tasks ahead of us, the different committees. And one of the frustrating things about change is that it takes time, right? And that a lot of the top priorities that I think we can identify within the city that we've already talked about here, that y'all have already mentioned, such as housing and homelessness, road improvements, public transportation access, all of those things can be long-term projects, and they can take time to accomplish. So given that y'all were here a year ago, and you're here today, assuming maybe next year we get to do this again, right? What all would you want to see? What change would you hope to see within your first year as a city councilor? If we're sitting up on the stage a year from now, what would you like to say? This is something that has changed, and we can see that measurable progress. Does anybody, Tiffany, you look like you want to start.
I shouldn't have made eye contact.
Yeah.
I'm happy to start. Some of those things thinking, okay, I love the idea of doing this every year, because a year ago, it was my very first forum. I was so nervous. Angelita remembers I was like this. And when they rang the bell because my time was up, I stopped talking mid-sentence, and Angelita was like, you can't finish. And I was so nervous. And so I feel like every year, this is a great marker to keep coming back and see how we've grown.
Noted. We're taking notes on that one.
Okay. Yeah, I think getting a year from now, making sure committees are up and running. I was very clear on the dais that it's important to me that I maintain help maintain the health of this group of 12 and keep this camaraderie. It's really real that the 12 of us all do get along and like each other. And there was something that one counselor said we can have pretty different views at times, but they were saying, off the dais, let's really get to know each other and be informal and see each other, really get to know each other as people. And then know that when I'm on the dais, I will be more formal, and I'm kind of there to fight at times, and it's not personal. It's just going to be about policies. And I remember hearing that and being like, oh, okay, I can still be friends with people and still disagree policy wise. And so trying to maintain that healthy, what I think is a very healthy mix of being able to see each other as people and also disagree, and also leave space for surprising times when we will agree where maybe we didn't think we were going to. Echoing kind of what Steve was talking about, hopefully passing a balanced budget during this really hard time. And getting the governance committee up and running, having that be something that is a place that really is useful for the whole council and is helping things run more smoothly. Another priority, getting our police oversight board into place successfully. And, in general, all of that is kind of under the umbrella of setting our city and this new government up well on a solid footing.
Excellent, thank you. Annalita? The question was what we would like to see in a year from now? Yeah, a year from now, what change would you like to be able to present? Yeah, I think I have some specific policies that I'm really interested in. I am a renter. I grew up with a single mother who has always rented. We've never been able to afford a home. And the cost of rent is simply too high in Portland, Oregon. And I am looking into creating a policy that bans AI software that allows landlords to artificially inflate rent prices. You may have we're meeting with cities across the US who have either already done this policy and trying to do things to strengthen it and make sure that it actually has teeth. So that's something that I think is an immediate fix. Obviously, we are going to have to do a lot to build more housing and address the housing shortage as well. But I think that there are things that we can do in the meantime to address the cost of rent. I do think we have to have all of our committees up and running, and those should be up by the second week of February. I would love to address the state law that makes it impossible for 7 of us to talk at the same time, or even send an email on the same topic, because that triggers public forum rules in a way that makes it impossible for us to do any, we can't even email each other to be like, can we all meet at this time? Because that might trigger a public forum. So, this is boring behind the scenes stuff. Sorry, this is just like state law, infrastructure stuff that makes it really hard to do our jobs. I would also love to see us at a really good place with our housing and homelessness crisis. I think that's at the forefront of a lot of people's minds. We've had a good time working with Mayor Wilson on his shelter proposal, and I think we're refining those details and trying to figure out the budget for it. I think working directly with unhoused community members as well and trying to assess why it is that people don't want to enter our shelters in the first place. The same way that we're here getting feedback from community about what you want, and I look forward to that portion. I think we also need to do with unhoused people to figure out why it is that our shelter spaces aren't places that they want to be in. I also think, oh man, so many things. I don't know. Sorry, I'm taking up a lot of time now. I'm also, yeah, thank you, Tiffany. I'm also really excited to see us meet some new climate goals. I think that with everything happening at the federal level, we're going to have to fight in a different way at the local level for everything that we've got. And I'm excited to deep dive with Steve on some of the proposals that city employees have already put together and things that we can quickly pass. So looking forward to more of that, and to a further investigation of the Zenith oil train and some of the stuff that happened behind the scenes. The reality is we keep hearing different things from advocates and from the city and from Zenith. And so I think the reality is we need a further investigation so that we can do right by the community and make a well-informed decision. Thanks.
First of all, I appreciate Annalita mentioning the public meetings law, which is boring behind the scenes stuff, but you should just know that the state legislature a few years ago passed a law which does not apply to itself. That basically, that pretty much means that we can't talk to each other if there's any chance the conversation might be passed on to 6 other people, or in our committees, if the conversation might be passed to 1 other person. And the result of that is going to be, you'll probably see a lot of things going on in broad daylight where you ask yourselves, why didn't they work that out before it was they were in the committee or in the council? The answer will be, we're not allowed to. So that might be somewhat entertaining. I'll give some specific examples and some general examples. One very specific thing is, and I think I might have mentioned this last year, a friend of mine who really follows gun policy pointed out to me a while ago that Portland lags the rest of the state in using the red flag law to take guns out of the hands of people who are a danger to themselves or others. It's a civil process, doesn't require a criminal conviction. And I've asked the police chief a couple of times, why do we lag the rest of the state? And he doesn't know. And I'll keep on bugging him about that. And I would hope by the end of the year, either we will have had better training for police on using the red flag law, or I'll hear an answer that, well, actually, we don't think that's a big priority, so it's not worth it. So that's one thing. Another public safety issue I would like to explore and have an answer to is, we know that traffic deaths have been at appalling levels for the past several years. And a lot of that is due to drivers just seem to become insane in the course of the pandemic and haven't stopped being insane. And I looked recently, and speed obviously is a major killer. And I looked recently at the city website, and there seem to be 24 active speed cameras in the city, and maybe like 12 others that were working at that time. That's not very many. So one of the things I haven't done yet is talk to Steve Hoyt Macbeth, who I worked with 10 years ago, who runs the speed camera program, to find out what are the barriers to having more speed cameras. I know there's a state law limitation. I want to understand that. I mean, the expense I would hope wouldn't be that great, so I want to explore that. So that's another specific thing that I want to look into. And as Annalita was saying, I think that the last city council was not particularly environmentally oriented. It was not very climate oriented. And I'm looking forward to hearing from the city staff who care deeply about this and know a lot about it, about, okay, where are we falling short of our climate action plan goals? What are the policies and investments we can make to get us furthest along? And for us to be able to say at the end of the year, here's what we know we need to do, here's what we have been able to do so far, here's what we can afford to do, here's what we can only afford to do with more money, etc. So that's a few examples.
Just a few things on the list. Yeah. Well, thank you all so much for sharing those thoughts, those priorities, and giving us a little insight into what this new form of government looks like. I think that that's something that we voted on, and not only are you all, new to city council, but giving us a little bit of insight as to what is actually going on behind those doors is super helpful and interesting to me. Hopefully it is to most folks too, but I think it's important for us to understand how our government is working and what it's looking like. Okay, so from here, we are going to open it up to questions from the audience. Now, I don't know if y'all have noticed, but there are a lot of folks here, which is amazing. We're gonna have about 30 minutes for this portion of the evening. And from there, we're gonna have about 30 minutes of just kind of open mingling. And I believe y'all are able to stay for that last 30 minutes as well. So if we don't have the opportunity for your question to be answered directly on the mic, or on one of my cards here, there will be an opportunity to mingle and chat with folks to wrap up the evening. So I think we've got quite a few questions here in my little basket. So what I'm planning on doing is we can have one person from the mic, and then I'll kind of do a little shuffle, and we'll ask one card from here. And I'm gonna ask that everybody keep it to please one question per person. And I'm gonna be firm with being like, no follow-up questions, you can ask those later, but it just took us, about 25 minutes to get through 3 questions. So we want to get through as many audience questions as possible. So please keep it brief. You can ask for all 3 of our counselors, or you can ask a question to a specific person. And just a quick reminder of our meeting ground rules that we went over, and please keep questions respectful and mindful of all the folks that are in the room here this evening. Okay.
Also, we have a couple on Zoom too, so just to kind of pepper that in.
Great. Do you want to further questions on Zoom? Do you want to just come up and kind of grab the mic from me after I read a card question?
Sure, yeah, just want to at some point.
Got it. Okay, perfect. All right, well, let's go ahead and take our first question from the mic, please.
Hi, my name's Steve, and I've lived in the neighborhood 30 years, and I'm seeing the results of the priorities that were set by city leaders before, and I'm not encouraged. So what I'm wanting from you and what I'm asking for is focus, specific focus on the crossroads we're at right now. And we're at a crossroads, new government, big priorities. And I want you to consider the crossroads of Sandy Boulevard and 82nd Avenue. 6 homicides, 6 cannabis stores, Ed's House of Gems closed, Nest's Playground just closed. Prostitutes, where is the focus? If you prioritize climate change over public safety and livability, I will work to get all 3 of you out. I need focus on public safety, focus on livability. It took me 6 weeks to have a hospital hobo homeless.
Do you have a question?
Please, will you focus? will you focus on the crossroads of 82nd and Sandy?
In my classroom, I say, question is when you're wondering something, if that's helpful.
Yeah, just a reminder, folks, please keep it to a question and you can save your like concerns to a one-on-one after. So we want to be respectful of everyone's time. Thank you.
If I may give a bit of a response to that, one thing that we're gonna be talking about in the Public Safety Committee is the fact that crime tends to be extremely place-specific. Boston in the last year drastically reduced their murder rate partly by identifying 150 places in the city that they associated the most with violence. So one of the things that we'll be doing is, and I actually, the other day heard from a police officer that in one East Portland crime hotspot, they took 2 officers off of general patrol and just assigned them to spend time in that area. So that's something that we're gonna talk to the police chief about, to the extent to which we can prioritize that. Can we take some specific locations where there's a lot of crime and just station enough police officers there, do enough outreach to the community there, support community organizations to try to stop the crime in that specific place? Because there is actually a fair amount of research that shows that crime is place specific, and it's not as if you focus on one place, it moves a few blocks over. Often you can make a big difference just by having a major presence at a specific place. So we will definitely look at 82nd and Sandy. So thank you.
Okay, one from my shuffle basket here. Are there any future phases of the IBR or Rose Quarter freeway widenings that will come before city council? Is there any insight there? And if not, we can move on. If it's a,
I confess, I don't know when they will. I mean, I think that there's gonna be points along the way where some of those issues will come to us, but that is a question that I have neglected to ask Peabody, and we need to.
and I do think for folks who want to organize around those issues, that will probably be discussed in depth in the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. That's Olivia Clark from District 4 is the chair, and I'm the vice chair of that one. And I'm sure it will have impacts in the Climate Committee as well. So we can definitely make space for a work session for that. Can you repeat that committee again, the transportation? Yeah, transportation and infrastructure, and then climate. Great, thank you. Okay, please.
Good evening. I'm Angela from PDX Row. My question is, the city of Portland has opted for the first time ever to conceal the email addresses and phone numbers of city councilors. Instead, there's an online form. This question is for all of you, but specifically before I ask both Councilor Murillo, I would like to ask you, you posted video in the last 24 hours calling me personally a woman who spends all her time hanging out with Proud Boys and harasses women of color running for office. My question is, and then you went on to say that the followers were not normal people that were just asking you about this policy and wanted to be able to contact you directly. Do you regret as an elected official speaking this way about your constituents, including the in District 3, or do you think this was a reasonable national response?
I feel like this is very directed towards you and not about the community.
No,
So
I don't know how you
please.
feel about the policy. I'm happy to talk about the transparency piece.
So actually, we addressed the email concerns that folks had, and I appreciated that you brought that up because it made us look into the system better. Originally, because we have a shared constituent services person per district now, we don't have an individual constituent services person per city councilor, which makes it harder for us to address the issues. What we were able to do with the online form is work with IT to actually ensure that it's triaging to those email addresses. So they have already been publicly posted. Thank you, Angela. And we are working to get a phone number up for our shared constituent services person. Because they're shared, it won't be as specific policy-wise per city councilor, but you will have access to that, I would say, by tomorrow.
And my question for you is,
I'm sorry,
as an elected official speaking with a constituent like that. That's my question. I wanted answered.
You had answered your one
I'm not
question.
okay with you calling people Proud Boys.
All right, so we have another question from the basket. Thank you for asking your one question, and we're gonna move to the basket now. So, the next question that I have from our random basket here is, what can we do to promote an economic revival in Portland? We have a whole committee set up. We have an arts and economy committee, that I don't think any of us are on, are we? No. This will be a great question to take to them. I believe, Mitch Green from District 4 is one of the chairs of that committee.
Along with Dan Ryan.
And
Yeah,
Dan
they're
Ryan.
co-chair.
Thank you. I think we have a lot of opportunities to do some of what we saw here earlier today. I mean, you guys showed us a beautiful community sculpture that I think is incredible, and that's the kind of thing that we can do to beautify the community and make it more accessible. I also really see transportation and access to safe sidewalks and transit infrastructure as part of making businesses more accessible to shop at, right? I'm a transit user. I go shopping on the weekends. If the bus is only running every hour, I'm not going to be able to go and invest in our local small businesses. So I think there's a lot of ways that we can be creative about how we invest in our arts and economy.
And I would add that Portland has never had some of the advantages that other economically successful cities have had. We don't have a major research university. We don't have a bunch of Fortune 500 headquarters. What made us successful for years was our quality of life. People thought that Portland was a cool place to be, a nice place to live, a clean place to be. And that meant that there were companies that would move here because they thought that this is where their future employees would want to be. So we kind of lost that image. I mean, the truth is, there's a lot of places in Portland that are wonderful, but we have this image of this crime-ridden place where everybody's homeless. And I think that we need to fight back both against the image, but also if we can reduce the number of folks off the street by getting made shelters or housing. If we can continue to work on getting the crime rate down, which it has been going down, then we can, and if we make the kind of improvements that Amelita was talking about to make it an even better city, a city where you can walk and bike and take transit safely, which is what a lot of people want now. A lot of people want to get out of their cars. I think that I mean, it's not like we've been an economic basket case forever. 10 years ago, our economy was going great guns. And I think that our secret sauce has always been our livability, so that's what we need to work on.
I echo all of this, and especially the piece about making sure that we are working on the issue of traffic violence, making sure that everyone feels like they can move throughout their neighborhood without fear of traffic violence. When you're able to take transit, when you feel safe walking on the streets and riding your bike, all of those things do help with.
That sounds miserable.
Those things help small businesses too. In
really
addition, I'm
weird.
thinking about like, what was the thing with Portlandia, like the place where young
itchy?
people go to retire? Was that it? Like, I'm also
dream of the
thinking,
90s.
yeah, just thinking about. There's a lot of work that's been nationwide around age-friendly cities, making sure that we're thinking about folks being able to age in place, age with dignity. And like, we also need to make sure that Portland is like kind of changing that a little bit, like a place where people who are retired can stay. I don't know what the cute tagline is. I'll work on that. But, thinking about making sure that, there's a whole lot that I'm learning about age-friendly cities, aging with dignity, making sure that people can have like 20, I think it's called like 20-minute neighborhoods. And you can go in 20 minutes on public transit and get your groceries and meet your different needs. I am really excited to work on that. AARP is doing a lot of work around this, and I'm excited to lean on people that have literally spent their careers doing this. There's someone named Alan De La Torre at PSU who does a lot of this work with housing and I've been working closely with him and I'm excited to continue working with him. We're meeting tomorrow to talk more.
Excellent, thanks, y'all. Yeah, I mean, it's also interconnected, right? A lot of these pieces. Okay, we're gonna move to a question on Zoom now.
Thank you. So I have a question from someone in the chat, Nord. It says, councilors, congratulations on being part of our new city council and thanks for being here this evening. We read that most, if not all of you, have signed a tenants bill of rights statement. Please tell us about your expectations on tenants' rights and landlords' responsibilities. How will the rights and responsibilities be enforced? And I know that we're kind of short on time, so it could be like one or two of you answer that, and I got a couple more Zoom questions I'm gonna go through. So the Tenants Bill of Rights was really created by community members to address some of the top issues that renters are facing. I think they interviewed over 200 renters. And I think that on city council, I am one of 2 renters on our entire city council, and we don't really have, oh, 3, I'm sorry, Steve. Or I could have pretended I ignored the other guy. Yeah, I think that it has to be balanced in terms of, we have to make sure that landlords are given all the correct information and infrastructure to actually make sure that they are following the rules. And we also have to have monetary enforcement mechanisms. I think the reality is that most big companies and agencies, the only thing that bothers them is to hit them in where their money is. So that's going to be the type of thing that I'll be looking into to ensure that tenants' rights are being protected and that the most vulnerable people in our city with the least money are able to stay and thrive. You know what, you were about to answer that, and I have another housing question, so maybe you can answer this one, Tiffany. Sorry, Councilor Tiffany. Okay, so,
That's
what?
Madam Vice
Yeah,
President.
I know, Madam Vice President. There you go. Okay, what steps will you take to support getting more housing built or convert it for housing in District 3? For example, Roseway is 90% bungalow type houses for single family use. So there are very few apartment buildings or housing accommodations for more than just one family.
Yeah, these 2 are both on the Housing and Homelessness Committee. I'm not, but I still am really passionate about this topic and plan to collaborate. I don't have like specific plans in mind, but definitely know that we need to be addressing the housing crisis from a lot of different directions.
One thing that we can do is change the zoning laws to allow more kinds of housing in more places. We actually have done some of that in the last 10 years. It used to be that there were big swaths of the city where you couldn't even have duplexes or triplexes. And we actually changed that law, and then the governor actually changed law statewide so that duplexes and triplexes at least are allowed pretty much everywhere. There's a proposal that actually I don't know if it would include the Portland Neighbors Welcome proposal. What is the boundaries of that? I don't know if it includes, I think it's mostly southeast, a proposal to allow more apartment buildings in more places. And that's something that Annalena and I will be looking at in the Climate Resilience and Land Use Committee. One thing I have to tell you is that I've got friends in District 3 who say, I don't have any problem allowing more density in District 3, but for God's sake, can't you make the west side take more housing too? So that will probably be a conversation if we're going to allow more different types of housing to be built in one part of the city, what's gonna happen in the other parts?
Microphone, please.
All right. Thank you, counselors, for coming. I also want to recognize the volunteers from the Neighborhood Association. You are what makes this city run. My name is Karen. I am a proud resident of District 3, Rose City Park. I'm a longtime City of Portland communications employee and a member of the City of Portland Professional Workers Union. Communication employees are essential workers at the city who do the people's business. We supply information about city services, we answer questions in the community, we staff joint information centers during emergencies, which include everything from pandemics, severe weather, wildfires. I've worked on all 3 of those, plus much more. There are plans to lay off huge swaths of communication staff in order to balance the budget. And on behalf of our union, I'm asking, will you commit to work with CPPW to finalize our contract? Can you meet with workers on the ground who offer insight on ways to balance the budget so it doesn't cut the people who are doing the people's business? And can you take what you're hearing from our neighbors here and connect it to this essential work that Portlanders want, need, and is often required by law? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Karen. It's so good to see you again. And yeah, thank you for bringing this issue to our attention. I would love to sit down with all of you and have a discussion around that budget, and maybe you can meet with all three of us for District 3 sometime next week. I am committed to making sure that we are passing a budget that protects your jobs. Getting information out to our residents is absolutely crucial. And part of the reason that so much misinformation is spread and people get so confused about what resources are available is because we don't always prioritize the communications work that is so valuable. So I'm absolutely committed to doing that with you, and I won't speak for them, but I'm pretty sure they are too.
Yes. And I am also, I don't know if you know this, a union organizer, and I wouldn't be here. I'm pretty positive if it wasn't for my union organizing work. And something to say positively is we have a really labor-friendly council. This is something that is new at the city, and I think the folks at the bargaining table on the city side are like getting used to that, because we have an expectation that we're keeping workers at the center, that we're having these conversations. And I will say that I think that they're hearing this, and they're also adjusting to they're not just being someone who's labor friendly, but also someone like who is labor and knows that your livelihood is tied up with the livelihood of others and mine. And so I will say that they are bringing me in specifically in some of these meetings as we're talking about what's going on with AFSCME and DCTU right now. So I'm seeing some of that shift. It's probably going to take time, but what I can see is a bigger culture shift that's needed in terms of this specifically around labor.
And I think you'd all particularly like to hear ideas, as you said, about how to balance the budget while minimizing the impact on frontline staff. I mean, from what I'm afraid that there are going to be layoffs as part of this budget. But to the extent that we can cut contracting out as opposed to city staff, to the extent that we can make the layoffs targeted towards the people who we can best afford to be without, that's what we need to be working through.
And you have someone at the table that's gonna direct management to chop from the top.
And if any of our neighbors have questions afterwards, for people wearing these shirts about what we do for you in the city, we're here to answer your questions, so.
Mingle half an hour at the end of the evening. Okay, thank you. And in 10 minutes. Okay, we have another random question from our basket. Are there any plans that you all are aware of to improve or expand the trails around the Rose City Golf Course? In this person's opinion, the whole course should be converted into a park with public trails like Mount Tabor.
I don't know of any current plans yet, but I like that. I'm someone that's like, let's throw out all the ideas, and that's how we brainstorm, and it might not, that's how we get to where we get with good ideas, and just throwing all of them out creatively. I like that. And these two have talked a lot about golf courses on the campaign trail. You might not all know that, but I'm here for that too.
Yeah, we're laughing because Adelaide and I became the anti-golf caucus in the course of the campaign. It's not, we have no problem with golf at all stage, but we're talking, I talked to a city employee who said that it's hard to come up with more locations to put tiny house villages, and because there's not enough land. And I'd raised the question, well, we do have big chunks of land, they have golf courses, can we look at those? Now, I'm not saying that we should immediately change Rose City Park and do nothing but tiny house villages, but it was something that we thought should be on the table. I also have to say, I am biased in favor of parks that are open to everybody, as opposed to golf courses that are used by nice normal people, but it's a pretty small level of users per acre. One thing I've realized I'm confused about is I don't know who in the city owns the golf courses. I don't know if they're part of parks. I don't know what they're part of. So they are part of parks? Okay. Well, actually, our committee, Climate Resilience and Land Use, also has parks, although there's another committee that has rec. So, between the two committees, we should like talk about who might have authority to talk about expanding trails. So we'll try to figure that out.
Excellent. Okay, to the microphone, please.
Hi, I was just wondering, since the city does have such a huge budget shortfall, is there any way you can creatively find a way to tax the rich more? I mean, I always look at Monopoly and there's a luxury tax. Why can't you tax people who buy luxury cars, luxury homes? I don't know the difference between the city and the county and how they tax. Can the city find a way to tax the super rich?
Girl, I am so here for that. I think that's something that I think we're gonna have to discuss as a city council. I know that we've kind of been given direction by the governor to not increase any taxes over the course of 3 years, and I think we're coming up on that final year of that request. The reality is that we are coming up against a lack of funding for a lot of services, and I think I'm especially thinking about it for the transportation committee and thinking about maintaining our roads. We're gonna have to be very creative about how we fundraise for that, but I don't have anything concrete to share yet, no pun intended, so I'm going to keep that a little closer to the vest.
I would just love to extend an invitation to the budget town hall on Thursday, right? At PCC, and I think it is important that we're having community input, and I was having conversations this morning with the council president about ways that we can make sure that your voices, community voices, are part of this discussion, so I encourage you to follow that and show us if you can.
I'm sorry, I have to address this because taxing the rich is like one of my fundamental principles. We have actually in Oregon and Multnomah County taxed the rich. I was part of a campaign in 2010 to raise the top income tax rate from, actually it was higher in the beginning, from 9% to 9.9%. We have the Multnomah County preschool tax that's taxing the rich. We have the Metro Home Services tax that's taxing the rich. And, you know, the rich people and the quote business community is really mad about that. And we're told that if we try to raise any form of tax, there'll be a huge campaign against it. And unfortunately, because there is a fairly wide perception among Portlanders that we've voted for all these taxes and we don't see the results, sustained campaigns against any significant new tax increase might be hard to beat. I'm fascinated you raised luxury taxes, because actually this is something I looked into about 8 years ago for, won't explain the reason, but Connecticut is the only state in the country that still has some form of luxury tax. They do tax high-end cars, and they do have an extra sales tax on expensive jewelry. And that is something that I think might be worth exploring, and particularly with transportation. I think that the state should look at, I don't think the city does registration fees, but we can have higher registration fees on cars that are really, really expensive. So thanks for reminding me of that. That's something that I'd actually like to talk to the legislature about as they do a new transportation bill this year.
Thank you so much. Really quick, you said PCC. Do you know which campus the budget hearing is at?
The one like 82nd,
the PCC Southeast Campus on 82nd and Division on Thursday. So I think that's what time?
Second, it's from 6.
It's from 6:30 to 9. And it's gonna be for District 3, yes, PCC Southeast Campus on 82nd Avenue. This is gonna be an educational forum to kind of teach folks how the budget works. And there will be like a little bit of Q&A and discussion with folks as well, but just to give you an idea of what we're working with and what we're walking into. Excellent, thank you. So yeah, I think that's a great plug to join if you have more budget questions. Okay, a question from our basket, and then we'll do one more from the mic. Basket question, can we have a graffiti and vandalism laws changed to progressive felonies, no more slap on the wrist and or spray paint purchase laws? So I think former Commissioner Renee Gonzalez tried to do that with the DA and it failed. And I think that the new DA was pursuing something like that, but I don't exactly know why it fell through. I think mostly because it didn't actually make sense as a law, to be frank with you. we don't have enough public defenders or jails to process adding this as a higher penalty crime. So I think we're gonna have to be a little bit more creative with how we address some of that. And I think that public art installations, like what you're talking about, beautifying the community, making it a space where people want to live and they don't wanna, you know, put it in disrepair is gonna be the way to address some of that.
Totally agree with all of that. And last Friday, the three of us got to have, with District 4-2, we took the bus all around and had kind of a field trip day and got to see different things that Portland Solutions is working on. So we got to see 3 different shelters. We got to meet with people from PMO, the public, what does it stand for? And it's, public environment. There you go. And we got to see some of the murals that specifically were made in areas to, yeah, and those have not been tagged. Areas where there was a lot of graffiti, there's some beautiful public art that was made by public artists, and that is one strategy. I don't know what Emily just said about art.
Okay, I'm going to share one of my crazier ideas, which is, there's probably isn't, they might have the resources to prosecute more folks for graffiti, and there might not be room in the jails, but this would require prosecution. But one thing I was wondering was, what's an appropriate penalty when you deface somebody's property? Well, maybe that person should be able to deface your property. So if you tag somebody's house, somebody's business, maybe they should be able to tag your car. And maybe that would have a deterrent effect. So that's my, revenge spray painting is my solution.
Don't cross Steve. Okay, we're gonna go to the last 2 folks at the microphone, and then I'm cutting us off for questions because we're right at 8:30.
I have a governance question. I have a lot of affection and respect for our mayor, and I have a lot of concerns about his sheltering plan, mostly because it is not a housing plan or a behavioral health plan or a treatment plan. And he knows that I feel this way. But my governance question is, as recently as the first day when you had your first city council meeting, I heard people in the hallways and saying, well, I don't know if the council can let, like, there's questions about how the council and the mayor work together around things that they don't necessarily disagree on. And I know that there are members of council that have reservations about the mayor's sheltering plan. And I'm interested in, without talking about that plan, but just as an example of what kind of power plays are gonna unfold with something like that, or other similar disagreements about big things.
Yeah, I think this is a great question. Thank you. It's something that we don't have all figured out yet, but it came up in our conversation with the city attorney a bit this morning, and just this conversation of we're navigating this new system, and the hope is that we can remain both separate from the mayor and also work together, but not have a situation where we're just blaming and butting heads. And so President Pertolgini has done this, where she's like, we used to be like this with the mayor, and some people think we're like this, but actually we're more like linked. And so we are working together. So we are having, he's trying to be really open and communicative. So he's meeting with every district, group of 3 twice a month. So we meet with him, and so far he's been like, what agenda pieces do you want to bring forward? He wants that to be a place where we can talk about the budget. So that's specific to him, that he is wanting to put in these things, so we're having these constant conversations. As a council, we are also able to ask him questions in public. We can also have, at any point, the city administrator make a report. And so,
Can I add something?
Yeah.
I think the real mechanism of addressing and like checking the mayor's power is gonna be the budget. The reality is that he needs city council buy-in to fund his shelter model. So if he's not accounting for our feedback and requests, he is not gonna get 7 votes to pass a budget that includes the cost of his shelter model. And I appreciate you raising those concerns. I have a lot of respect and admiration for Mayor Wilson. I think he's approaching the work with a lot of humility and taking feedback. And also, you're right, the shelter model is very expensive and it does not address the housing, getting people into long-term housing, getting people into treatment. That's part of why the shelter model is so inexpensive. I did back of the napkin math on the dais, and what for one of the pods in the tiny home villages, and I'm not saying like a tiny home, I'm saying a pod, right? It's like a tiny closet that you sleep in. It costs about $5,000 per month per person. At a cost that high, the average cost of rent for a 1-bedroom apartment in Portland is $1,700 a month. So I think that we're gonna have to be really judicious with how we're spending our money, because a lot of unhoused people are, they don't necessarily have addiction issues and they are not necessarily unemployed. They just need help with like a rent deposit to get back into housing. And so that's low hanging fruit. And those are people that we can, easily get back into housing if we kind of readjust how we use our funding. So I would say funding is the mechanical check there. Okay, last question on the mic, please.
Hey there, Portland resident, District 3 resident for 51 years. So I was here when the city worked. I was here, I've been here through this whole time. And Multnomah County, I'm involved locally. Multnomah County is the second highest taxed city in the country. The statement tax the rich. Well, we've done that and people have moved. We've lost millions and millions and millions in revenue, things like preschool for all. People are leaving. People with money are leaving. People with money have choices. And they're leaving, and our businesses are leaving. And I'm a small business owner, and my goal is to see my city come back and thrive. And we can't do that if we lose our highest earners. Our highest earners are our highest payers. I know that's not pretty, Angela. You said you agree with tax the rich.
Question.
Yes, I'll get there. So taxing the rich has led us to where we are. Are you willing to support bringing in businesses that maybe it's capitalism, it's negative, it's bad, but they pay taxes? And maybe where they're not paying the taxes way up here, maybe they're just paying the taxes. Do you support a city that is going to welcome everybody? Highest earners? I'm not one, but the businesses, because we are not all extremely far left. We have moderates here too. Are we gonna be a city council that's going to honor all of us? Is there gonna be balance? I think right now I see zero balance and I'm extremely concerned.
So I'm going to challenge the premise of the question a little bit, because under the prior city council, they actually created an entire tax-free zone in downtown Portland for big businesses like Nike, because it benefited big businesses to trash our city and to say that it was falling apart, so they could create a narrative that gave them the leverage to demand a tax-free zone or they were going to leave. So there's an entire sector of downtown where they are profiting off of our workers. They are making a ton of money off of our people, and they're not paying back into our downtown area. So the idea that we've always taxed the rich is not true.
Couple of things. One, I spent a bunch of time in the past 30 years looking at the argument that rich people leave high tax places. And generally, it's not true. There's more millionaires per capita in California and New York than there are in Texas and Florida where there's no income tax. I think that people who can leave have been leaving because they see the quality of life in Portland deteriorating. If they also happen to be paying high taxes, there's like, well, gosh darn it, I'm not gonna keep on paying these high taxes and stay in a place that I no longer want to live in. So I think that it's more people thinking they're not getting enough bang for their buck than the level of taxes themselves. But also, I think it's important to note that the city of Portland doesn't really tax rich people at all. The state has a relatively high income tax. Multnomah County and Metro apply these high-end taxes. The city hasn't. So although people in Portland are paying those taxes, the city government pretty much relies on business income taxes and property taxes. And actually, one of my problems with our property tax is there's a bunch of rich people that pay much lower than they should, because we have this bizarre property tax system where what you pay is largely based on what your property was worth in 1995. So people in the most recently gentrified areas of inner Northeast are get taxed at like, 1/8 the level that they should. So there are problems with the tax system that the city relies on, but the city itself is not really taxing the rich.
More tax, we expect more taxes.
I think right now, what we're gonna do, because we're past time to mingle, I'm going to ask one quick final question, rapid fire. Obviously, there are a lot of questions that we didn't get to. There's a lot of folks here. There's a lot of questions in my question basket. So, what advice do you have for any resident of District 3 or Portlanders, if they're passionate about a given topic or issue facing our community? What's the best way for them to plug in? And can we do that rapid fire, and then I'll close us out? Sign up for our newsletters. The city website, portland.gov, has a list of all of our committee assignments. I think that is a space where people should come and testify and share their point of view.
I think taking advantage of the committee system is gonna be hugely important.
I will give one last plug. Another way is to take the District 3 Community Priority Survey. And that again closes on Friday, and I'll leave this up here if anybody needs the QR code, but there's also some on the benches. So yeah, I think, thank you so much to all three of you for coming. If we can give a round of applause for our councilors. Awesome. Yeah, on behalf of the Roseway Neighborhood Association and District 3, thank you so much for being here this evening, and we hope that you stick around and everybody has the chance to do a little mingling and chatting with your neighbors as we close out the evenings. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Thank you.